Well, hello everybody. This is Danny back from Deep South Homestead. We are here, guys, today back in the cabin again. The cicadas outside are still, until they calm down, I'm just not going to go back out there because it just distorts the video so bad. I tried an external mic, it didn't do no good. I mean, it's just too much to deal with. And oh my word, it's just, I know it's part of nature, but it makes it very difficult to shoot a video with that much noise in the background. And the weather has cooled off. Wanda and I have enjoyed it. Now, we was off this whole last week. We didn't call it a vacation, we called it a staycation, because technically we can't leave the farm here. We have too much stuff that has to be done every day, that has to be tended to, and we have nobody to do it but us. And because of that, Wanda and I can never leave to go anywhere to do anything more than just a few hours at a time, because we have to tend all these animals that's here. And we have crops that have to be done, and our to-do list is really big right now, because during the heat of the summer we don't get much done, and we have to kind of ramp it up when it cools off a little bit in order for us to be able to get a lot done. The winter months is really our time to do stuff because it's actually cool enough when we can. The weather has been literally fantastic. We wake up in the mornings, it's around 50 to 55 degrees. A light breeze blows during the day. It's been getting up to like 75, I think. And guys, it's perfect weather. I mean, we've got most of our sweet potatoes dug, got a couple of rows left to go, but they're 2 or 3 more weeks out because they got planted later. We've got all of our peas up nice and pretty. And I told Wanda, I said, I know now why my dad's garden was just so beautiful all the time, because he had a Cub tractor and he plowed it. I plowed these peas several times now, and look, and it's just perfect. They're beautiful, they're perfect growing. I mean, I told Wanda, I said, now I know why my dad's garden was so beautiful, because he had the right equipment to do it with. And the stuff today is just not made to do gardens with like they used to do. And the weather's perfect. I mean, it's calm. It's pristine out there. It's like a bluebird effect with the skies, no chemtrails, nothing. It's just fantastic. Now, a few things, we didn't get to go fishing this week. We wanted to go fishing, but several things actually popped up that we weren't expecting to happen, and we had to go deal with those, but we didn't get to fish. That was one thing we wanted to do. But other than that, it's been really, really good. But you know, being off for a week showed me something. With no media, anything like that, no social media of any type. I stayed off the internet completely. And I was like, my mind had time to, I call it heal itself and get back on track with what's really important. And guys, that's something that I want to just think about today is, you know, it gave me time to think. And as I was thinking, I thought about all the things that's going on around us right now, and how so many people have so much anxiety right now, and the stress, the anxiety, the uncertainty, all of these things that are all around us right now. And I was like, Lord, how do we cope with this? It looks like it's going to be the new normal, because I was off the media for 1 week, and it was like the world fell apart in a week. When I went back online, I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening, that's happening. And I actually talk about this over on Patreon, about all the different things that's happened and what's going on and stuff like that. And I'm like, I couldn't believe that the whole world like fell apart as bad as it did in 1 week. So many things happened. And that was, it brought to my mind, this is why our minds used to not be cluttered up like they are, because we just didn't have a lot of things going on in the world. I mean, there was always been little events here and there happening, but not at the magnitude that they are now. And I was like, Lord, what do we do? How do we get beyond this? Now, that's one reason I'm doing the podcast. I mentioned this over on Patreon, is because with the podcast, I try to find some kind of normalcy of life. I try to take people back to a simpler time of life when things just wasn't so chaotic, and are able to enjoy some of the things in life that used to be just the normal, but now they're abnormal because they just don't happen anymore. And that's the beauty of the podcast, and that's why I do it. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know why you're doing a podcast. That's why. Not only does it help a lot of other people, it helps me to be able to find some kind of normalcy in the world today. And guys, after praying about it and after looking into the scriptures and stuff, I'm like, Lord, if there's any piece of advice I could give anybody, what is it? To deal with everything that we're facing today. And I ended up in the book of Philippians, chapter 4. And there's some verses from about 6 through 9 there. If you look at them all, it helps you out. But there's one particular verse in that, and that's verse 8, where the Apostle Paul, talking to the people at Philippi there, he told them, he said, think on these things. And he gave them a list of 7 different things to think about. And he said to think on these things, you know, think on things that are true. Now that right there, think on things that are true. That's the first thing he mentions. God, I don't know if there's really anything out there today that I can see that's actually true. Everything I come across, everything I read, everything I find is a lie. So I have to find something that's true. Paul said, think on the things that are true. Don't clutter your mind up with lies, because the old devil is the father of lies. And if he can get lies into your head, he can mess with your ability to think and to have a clear conscience. So that's one thing I want us to do. I want us to try to find things this week to think about that are true. And the second thing he mentions is to think upon things that are honest. There we are again. How many things do we see going on in the world today that's even honest? Everything is dishonest. Literally. There's hardly any honesty in the world anywhere anymore. I mean, you can't take a person's word for anything. If they tell you they won't do something, they don't do it. It goes to the point where if you buy an automobile and you have a contract and you sign a contract, people don't want to even honor their contract. Used to, you could just a shake of a man's hand is all you needed, because his word was his bond. Now, doesn't mean nothing. It means crap. Signing a contract doesn't even mean anything. People trying to get out of that. You see, there's no honesty. But Paul said, look for the things that are true. Look for the things, my friends, that are honest. And that's very, very difficult in the world that we live in today. Because truth and honesty, just two things that just about don't exist anymore. And you know, what's the third thing here? Paul said to think upon the things that are just. There we go again. Is there really anything that's just anymore? Everything that we look at today is false. I mean, it's just not. It's just not just. Even our court systems are not just anymore. I mean, we've had fraudulent elections. I mean, it doesn't matter what we do. Everything is just unjust And that makes it very difficult. That's why we're having such a mental breakdown in our country today with everything. We can't find anything true. We can't find anything honest. We can't find anything just. We can't find any of these things. But the fourth thing Paul says to look for and to think about is things that are pure. There's nothing pure anymore. I mean, literally. Everything has been distorted today. There's no purity in anything anymore. And that just, the more and more I tried to find things that were true and you know, I mean, that were honest and just, you know, I began to look at those. I'm like, Lord, these things, I can't even find these. And now you're telling me I need to look at something that's pure. And I'm like, how is this supposed to happen? The world we live in is so wicked that these four things alone, I can't find anything, hardly, that even fills any of those qualifications today. Now, as I looked on, I said, Lord, the world we live in is just so bad. These four things I can't find anywhere hardly. But what's the next thing? He says, think about things that are lovely. Now wait a minute. I think I might can do that one. Because what's lovely to me may not be lovely to you. And what's lovely to you may not be lovely to me. And if y'all know, and you stick with me on my videos, I talked last week about how my father watched all the old westerns because it brought back a sense of normalcy to him during that particular period in his life, and how I like to look at all the old Appalachian videos and the mountains, and the mountains are just what I love. You know, it's just a part of me. I used to get involved in every year, going to the mountains, meeting the people, and watching the old sorghum making, and you know, just all that kind of stuff of hog killings and all the kind of things that families used to get together and do. Those things are lovely to me. Seeing the fall colors change in the leaves, going from the dark greens to the pale colors, and then all of a sudden they turn to vibrant oranges and yellows and stuff like this, and the world for once looks like a giant painting with all the bright leaves and all that kind of stuff on it. And I said, now that's lovely. That is lovely. To sit back and look at this, look at the fog as it holds over the Blue Ridge Mountains, and how it just kind of descends down into the valleys at night, and in the mornings it rises back up to the mountain tops and stuff in there. And as I used to sit out in the mountains and look at all this when it happened, I was like, yeah, that's lovely. Watching all the deer coming out into the meadows and the black bears scampering on the hills, watching the squirrels playing in the trees, the wild turkey as it would scratch along through the trees in the woods while I was hunting up there. I said, now to me, that's lovely. Listening to a chipmunk chatter and squirm around through the rocks in the hills where these old rock fences were built millennials ago, and I looked and they scampering out the holes in them old rock fences and stuff, and I'm like, now that's lovely. That's peaceful. That's lovely, you know. So I said, Lord, I can find some rest in that. But Paul says, think upon things that are of good report. And as I began to think about good report, I thought, I couldn't find anything to think about hardly that was of good report. Because everything that's reported to us today is propaganda. It's not true. It's a lie. You know, it's been falsified. It's unjust. And I'm like, this is very difficult, Paul. There's just very few things that are of good report today to even think about. And as I began to think about this, I said, now this is why he gave us a list of 7 things. Is because We might not find all of them, but maybe out of that 7 we can find something to think about. And well, it's just difficult, guys. The world we live in is just difficult. And the latter days of this age, we've been told, is going to be this way. And it's one of those things that we have to accept. We cannot go out here and allow it to destroy us mentally because we can't find any normalcy in it anymore. If we take these things that I'm mentioning here to you and we hunt the ones out of them that we can think upon that's good, then we can find some normalcy. Now, he also said, if anything be of virtue and praise, think on these things. If they have any virtue or praise, think on any of these things. Any things I just mentioned to you, if they have any virtue or any praise, think about those things. Now, you could really call it 6 things, but I call it 7 because of the virtue and the praise. Guys, very few things that I mentioned there in those 6 things has any virtue to them whatsoever. Very few of them have any praise to be given to them. It's up to us to find it in those things. Because the scripture says, if we think on these things, then that's what we should do. We can alleviate a lot of our anxiety problems if we think upon these things. If we get rid of the negative aspects of life and we begin to think about more positive things, things that are true, things that are honest, things that are just, things that are pure, things that are of lovely, things that are of a good report. If any of these have any virtue or praise, think upon those things. God gave us a list there. And it's up to us to find those things. I searched long and hard on them, I'm not going to lie. And I could find a couple of things for each one of them. But the things that was lovely to me was the easiest. And it may be for you too, because what's lovely to me may not be lovely to you, and what's lovely to someone else is not lovely to that person. So we all have a different way of looking at things. But I think if we look hard enough, we'll find the things that we're looking for and quit focusing on all the negative aspects of things in life, like this tsunami thing that they're talking about hit the United States. If this Canary Island does what it's supposed to do, I don't see that happening. I mean, it's just, to me, it's not possible. The ocean's too deep for that to happen. The pestilence 19, so many people dying from that. Guys, over on Patreon, I talk about that a lot. And on this last video I've done over there, how that it connects with a massive disease from the mid-80s. And guys, it's up to us to create our own normalcy in this life. And that's what I'm trying to do here at Deep South Homestead. I'm trying not to let all of this stuff bother me. I'm going on with my life just like I always did, and I'm not trying to let it bother me. Now, I do have to use good common sense. You know, if someone's had the you know what and the you know where, because there's so much uncertainty about that right now, and there's nothing been proven, you know, we try not to be in a closed up area with people like that because we don't know if they're a carrier now. We don't know. We know they're not shedding because you can only shed if you've had a true vaccine, and this was not a true one. So we know they're not shedding, but they could be transferring. So, I mean, and you have to look at people who's had this done. I'm not saying that, I'm not telling you to do it or not to do it. That's the thing that's irritating me about this whole thing. is everybody should have the right to choose whether you want to do it or not. For us, it's a no. We have our reasons. But if you feel like you need to, I'm not going to not like you because you do it. That's ludicrous. There's no sense in that. But yet it seems like that's what they want us to do, is to be against each other, blaming one thing on somebody else. You know, it's a blame game, and that creates dissension. And if y'all stayed with me through my last videos, we talked about, what was it, Proverbs 6:16, the 6 things that the Lord hates. Yea, 7 is abomination unto him. A lying tongue. He goes through there and names all these things off it. You know, stirring up strife amongst the brethren, all this kind of stuff. God says, I hate this stuff. And yet that's what they're trying to make happen to us. And guys, we've got to be better than that. We've got to rise above this. We've got to hunt true, well, let's just say we got to hunt truth in it all. I haven't seen enough truth in any of it yet for me to be comfortable with anything. I see flaws in it everywhere. And I just about imagine by the time it's all said and done, there's going to be flaws in it everywhere that's going to be found. And I'm fixing to get off of here, but I'm going to mention something to you before I do. Be prepared. I can't say anything about this, but be prepared for the next wave to come, because it's already in the making. They've already created a new you-know-what for it. It hasn't been released yet, but they're going to. And something else I'm going to mention to you here is when Pestilence 19 was released over in CHINA, they didn't tell you this. I stumbled upon this, but there was also a disease that was released at the exact same time that affects plant life. And a lot of the people who've passed on from this, it's been found in their bloodstream. That same disease has been found in their body, not their bloodstream, but in their bodies. And I wasn't aware of this until just this past week. And that concerns me, because this particular thing that's been let loose kills trees from the top down. And I've been noticing this now for about 2 years. And actually I've talked about it on my videos before, is wondering what this was, killing all the trees from the top down. But that particular VIRUS was released at the same exact time. I did find some stuff on that. So guys, be aware. It's showing up in the food system. And also be aware that there was a bunch of money allocated to some universities out in California to do some research on how they can put Pestilence 19 into food in order to make sure that everybody gets it. They're talking about using lettuces and different things like that. It's all out there. You can go hunt it up yourself and find it. But they're actually talking about now putting it in the food to make sure that those who say, I'm not going to comply and take it this away, they'll get it this away. So be careful, guys. I'm not saying it hasn't been done yet that I'm aware of, but they have allocated money to universities to study and figure out how they can bioengineer it into the food system. So I want to throw that in right here at the end before we get off and say, guys, thank you for watching us. Go over and check our podcast out on Spotify, iTunes. It's on a lot of places over there. Deep South Homestead, where we talk about the simpler things of life. And you go to download Spotify, if that's where we're at mainly. It's a free app. It doesn't cost you anything. You're going to see a lot of music there. Don't pay any attention to that. Go to the little hourglass, punch that, type in Deep South Homestead Podcast, and you'll come up. We've got 4 podcasts up over there already. We're talking about the simpler time of life. We're talking about food shortages over there also, and how we can deal with them and what to expect with food crisis and stuff like that. We have that over there also. So go check us out on Spotify, Deep South Homestead Podcast. Thank you guys for watching us here at Deep South Homestead. Thank you so much.